All right, so this video is all about the 5 questions that I get asked the most from people that are making a move here to the city of Murrieta. People that reach out to me all the time, they ask me a lot of the same questions, so I thought this would be a really helpful video to make for you guys and hopefully help answer some of the same questions that you would have. So let's go ahead and get into it. Hey guys, hey again, my name is Justin Short. I'm a realtor and team leader with the Short Real Estate team here at Keller Williams in Temecula, and this video is all about the city of Murrieta. We're going to talk about the 5 questions that I get asked the most from people that are wanting to relocate here to the city of Murrieta. But before we get to all the information, if you want to see more real estate videos like this, please do me a favor. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Obviously, it helps me, it helps my channel as we try to continue to grow it. And then we have new videos that we're going to put out each and every week, and we put those out about all the local cities. So Temecula, Murrieta, Murrieta California, we have Winchester, we have Wildomar, just kind of the local South Riverside County area here. So if you want to see more videos about that, you can definitely hit subscribe, and you'll see those coming each and every week. And then if you guys have any real estate questions, you can feel free to reach out anytime. So you're going to see my information down either at below the video or at the end. You're going to see my phone number, my email. You can feel free, you can call, you can text, you can email me. That is my personal cell phone. So of course, would love to help answer any questions you may have, help point you in the right direction. Or of course, if I can help you out with your search, I'd love to do that. Obviously that's how I earn a living, so would love the opportunity to help you and your family, of course. But let's go ahead and we'll get into the video here. So again, this is gonna be about the 5 questions that I get asked the most from people that are wanting to relocate here to Murrieta. And just kind of a little information about me if you don't know much. So I live here locally. I mentioned my office is actually here in Temecula, which is the next city over. But I've lived here in the Temecula Murrieta Valley for a really long time, so over 25 years now. I went to high school out here. I own my home here. This is where I'm raising my family. I have 2 young kids, and we are planning to stay here in the area and live here, for the next probably forever, for at least the next 20 plus years. I think this is a great area to live. I think it's a fantastic area for me to raise my family. And I think living in Southern California in a somewhat affordable area, I think it'd be almost impossible to find a better fit. I know for sure in Southern California it'd be impossible to find a better fit. And I think really compared to most parts of the country, I think this is just such a great area to be. And that's why we're planning to be here long term. So I've helped a lot of people relocate here from other areas, whether that's other parts of Southern California, coming from San Diego, LA, Orange County, whether that's from Northern California, or a lot of people that are making cross-country moves from other states. So I have a lot of experience helping people like you, that are making these relocations. Love to be a resource for you, and hopefully this will be some good information for you. So cool. All right, so the question number 1, so the question that I get asked the most, and a lot of you guys, when you reach out, from watching the videos on YouTube, usually it's people that are not necessarily from the area. Usually you are relocating here from other areas. And so the first question that I get is, hey, we really like the city of Murrieta. It seems to check a lot of our boxes, but what neighborhoods should I avoid? What are the worst areas? What areas do I want to stay away from so I don't buy a home there or move there with my family? So, and I give really the same answer every time. The city of Murrieta is a very, very nice city. And it's a newer suburb, right? What kind of makes this area so nice is it's somewhat affordable. We have a lot of people that move up here from other parts of Southern California. So they move from San Diego, they move from LA, they move from Orange County, right? And they move here because it's so much more affordable. So those average homes there are going to be over $1 million. It's probably an older home in not such a great area, probably more of a rundown house, probably dated, probably small, and probably not as great of a school district. Where as opposed to up here, you can get your average home in Murrieta is about $750,000 for that house. You can get probably just about a 3,000 square foot house, something with a lot of space, a nice big yard, maybe even a pool, or maybe slightly more to get something with a pool. But you can just get so much more for your money. Not only that, it is a suburb area, so it's a really, really squeaky clean suburban area. It is very, very safe. Murrieta is constantly rated as one of the top 100 safest cities throughout the country. So it's been as high as like somewhere in the top 10, and each year, their rankings change a little bit, but overall, it's a very, very safe area. They have their own police force here in the city, and they do a really, really good job. And then not only that, they have a really, really great school district as well. So the Murrieta Valley Unified School District is really highly rated, and it's one of the reasons that so many people move here to have their kids go to some really good schools that are just part of the the public school system. So that's a big advantage for people. With that, just kind of describing this area, it's that that's that nice suburb, right? It's really squeaky clean, it's very safe, good schools. Really, I would say 99% of the city is going to be a really, really nice place to live. There really isn't necessarily a bad neighborhood in Murrieta. Most of the homes were going to be built in like the mid 90s. So from mid 90s to like mid 2000s, you might find a few that are a little bit older, but it's a lot of tract homes. But it's not like you have like a bad part of town or like an unsafe part of town, or where all the bad stuff happens, right? It's so squeaky clean. It is such a nice area. There are a few areas, that maybe have a lot of rentals, that maybe the neighborhood driving through isn't necessarily as nice. Maybe, it's not as well kept, right? So those areas do exist. Like there's some that I can think of that are kind of on the border of Temecula and Murrieta, where there's a lot of like quadplexes and triplexes. And that's probably an area I recommend to most people to avoid if you can afford the budget. But when you're looking at buying a single family home here, just really across the board, most of the neighborhood is going to be really, really nice. And I tell people, your quality of life is going to be really good, depending on whether you're on the west side of town or the east side of town. It's really going to be a really nice area to be in. So cool. Question 2 that I get asked a lot is, how long does the process typically take to make the move here, to buy a house and kind of get into the house and to actually get the keys? So usually this is because you guys are again making these big relocations from other areas, and usually as a general rule of thumb, in short, it's going to be somewhere about that 90-day mark. Can it be a heck of a lot quicker? Yeah, absolutely. Depending if you're financing the house or if you're going to pay cash, for the house when you go to buy it, that's going to determine like your escrow length. But if we just kind of use some general assumptions, so once you find a home that you like and you place an offer, your offer is accepted, right? You shake hands with the seller, you come to an agreement, right? You're gonna open escrow, and that process is negotiable, the timeline, but typically that's going to be about a 30-day escrow. So you figure you have about a month there just after you find the house, just for the escrow process, right? And then before that, you want to factor, you're going to take some time to look at houses. You're probably going to look at some different areas. You're going to look at some different neighborhoods, find out really more what you like and what you don't like. And so for most people, I recommend that's going to be about 30 to 45 days. And then sometimes it goes quicker. Sometimes the first time we meet up, sometimes the first place we look at, boom, we like it. We've really nailed the search down, and you're gonna move forward, right? But I do tell people to plan for about the 30, 45 days. So now you're taking 30 plus that 30 to 45. Now we're about 75 days now. And then you want to factor in a little bit of a buffer before that, just to make sure you take care of that pre-approval process. So typically I'll get in touch with a lender that I work really closely with, or maybe you might already have your own, but you would go through that pre-approval process. That process itself should take less than 24 hours. So usually it's closer to like a 6 to 8 hour thing, once you get all your information in. But it's a little bit of a process. You got to fill out your information. You got to find paycheck stubs. You got to find bank statements and do all these types of things, right? And you got to set some time aside for it. So kind of rounding up, being pretty conservative, I recommend that would be, plan for about a 2-week process for that. So between 2 weeks there, figure 30, 45 days for your actual home search process to write an offer, have an offer accepted, and then a 30-day escrow at the end. So with that, I would plan about 90 days. Can it be quicker? Yeah, absolutely. If a house is vacant and you're paying cash, or we can close your loan quickly, could it be 2 to 3 week process? Yes, absolutely. So we definitely have had that happen, and that's the route that you want to go, or decide to go, then that is definitely doable. But for most people, general rule of thumb, I would plan about 90 days or so until you actually get the keys, just so you can be conservative to kind of line everything up. Question number three that I get a lot is about HOAs. So this question, a lot of people ask me, they say, hey, do I have to buy a home in Murrieta that has an HOA? Some people they may not like HOAs, they might hate HOAs, they might think it's unnecessary rules and just some extra layer, some extra governing body they don't want to deal with. It might be, hey, I don't want to pay somebody, I don't want to pay somebody each month that doesn't own my house, or maybe I want to be able to park RVs and whatnot and not have somebody tell me what to do. So when you're looking online, you're going to see a lot of neighborhoods here locally that have an HOA. You can definitely buy a home in Murrieta that does not have an HOA, so they do definitely exist. I'd say actually probably about 50% of the homes, at least of the tract homes, do have no HOA. So about half do, half don't. In Murrieta, I would say across the board, for the most part, I would say 90% of the HOAs are relatively minor as far as like their rules and restrictions and things like that, and cost. So there's a lot of them that are out there that are, maybe $50 a month, 40 bucks, 50 bucks, 100 bucks a month, somewhere in that range, where they're not necessarily super strict, but they are in place to help keep the neighborhood looking nice. I do like an HOA like that, kind of like a low cost, under $100 a month HOA. In this area, as you get more expensive HOAs, so they call it north of 200, they tend to get super strict. So you do start to get some more amenities there. You might get, like a gated community or a guard gated community, or more pools and spas and clubhouses and things like that. And so if you like those things, they definitely do exist here. I live in a community like that now. I'm actually not really a big fan of those big high cost HOAs. To me, they start to become more of a nuisance, start to have more rules in place, and they can become quite a bit stricter. And to me, it's not the most fun thing in the world to deal with. So you kind of have 50% of the houses have no HOA, probably 40% they kind of have that low cost HOA under 100 bucks, and then maybe that extra 10% or so that has that high cost HOA that's going to be a little more specific and a little pickier with some of the rules and stuff. So you just got to know what you're getting into, and that would be in this area. Once you get over 100 bucks, I would consider that to be a high cost HOA in Murrieta. So cool. Question number 4 that I get is, hey, I live out of the area now. How can I buy a home in Murrieta? Like, hey, I'm relocating. I'm moving from Georgia, right? How can I pull this move off? And what's the best way to do it? So it can definitely be complicated when you guys are making these big out-of-state moves. And this is something that's starting to change a little bit with the market. So right now, this is summer 2025. The real estate market has definitely cooled a little bit over the last few months. Homes are not selling quite as quick. They're starting to sit more and more. With that, there's some advantages as a buyer as far as not only just your ability to negotiate price-wise, but your ability to negotiate like the terms and the type of offer that a seller will accept. So general rule of thumb, if you are making a move from out of state, the best thing to do if you're going to finance, we want to take care of that pre-approval up front. That'll be relatively easy. Like I said, you should be able to get that taken care of in a day or so. If it takes you more time, that's okay, but should be relatively quick. So, but once you have that pre-approval in place, then it kind of depends on your scenario. So if you are looking to buy your first home, or you're going to rent out your current home, or you're not going to sell another property, then really we can do the home search. We can either, if you're able to come make a trip out, we can do that in person. We can do a lot of that virtually if that's what you decide that you want to do, kind of depending on your comfort level and maybe your tech savviness there. So those are options that you're going to have. And then if you are going to be selling a home, then really what you need to do is be able to, as we go through the process, before you can get your offer accepted, you're going to have to take your home that's in your current city, put it on the market, find a buyer, accept an offer, and open escrow with that buyer. Once you do that, you will be in position to be able to get your offer accepted here in Murrieta, and you should be able to do that relatively easily. If your home is not quite sold yet, you're not quite in that process, as the market slows down, it's becoming more and more likely that we might be able to get your offer accepted before you find a buyer. It's a case-by-case scenario. It's going to depend on the house. If it's for a house that just popped on the market and it's beautiful and it's priced below market, and they're going to have 3 offers on it right away, well, it's probably not going to work out for us just based on your timeline. But if it's been on the market for 40 days and it's stale and there's no other game in town, no other offer that's out there, then it's definitely realistic that your offer could get accepted while still needing to sell your home. So it's just really going to depend on the scenario and what's going on with the seller and really how long the property's been listed and how motivated they are. So cool. And then number 5, if you guys are going to make this move to Murrieta and you want to buy a house, what do you need to do in order to buy a home here locally? So like I mentioned, you want to make sure pre-approval is taken care of. You want to make sure, if you need a home to sell, you're kind of getting the ball rolling. Hopefully you've had an offer accepted on that already. But in the case of just the actual ability to buy and kind of how that process would work, the most ideal thing that I tell people when you're making these relocations, take a trip out here to Murrieta, come spend a day, maybe do this a couple times, take a day trip, maybe a few days, drive around the area, drive around the city, make sure that you like it, make sure it feels like it's a great area for you, make sure you feel comfortable, maybe do some research on schools and neighborhoods, things like that. We can also definitely get together when you do your research trip, so we can meet up. You can get together face to face, grab a coffee, potentially go out and take a look at some homes depending on the scenario. Go pop in some different neighborhoods, kind of see what that's like. Hopefully that will help you guys decide that Murrieta is the place for you. After that happens, if you are able to be here locally for showings and we can schedule appointments and things, that's definitely the most ideal of scenario where you're here in person. We can go take a look at houses and But if you live in Arizona, you're probably not going to be able to do that every weekend, right? So it's just going to depend on the scenario. But if you do have that ability, that's the most ideal situation. If you don't, then we can definitely do a virtual showing. So I do this a lot with clients that are relocating to where I go out to the house. We can do some type of a video call. I'll do a tour, kind of do a walkthrough or record a video, send it to you guys, and hopefully that will help you experience the home while you're not here and you're out of state. So we can definitely do that. If you're going to do that, the other thing that I recommend is once you find a home, once we have an offer accepted, and once we open escrow, when we have that home inspection, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you guys make the trip back out to be here in person for the home inspection. So I think that is a great time for you to come back to the house. We're going to be in the house for a long period of time, usually 2, 3, 3.5 hours. It's your opportunity to kind of really take everything in, make sure that you really like the neighborhood, that you really like the house, and while the home inspector is telling you everything that's going on, all the things that are wrong with the house, it's really helpful for you to be there in person so you can understand exactly what they are saying. They can show you examples. If they say, hey, that sink is leaking, we can walk over, open up the cabinet, take a look at the sink so you can make sure you guys understand exactly what you're getting into. So ultimately, this house purchase is going to be your decision, not mine. I'll give you my recommendations on what the things that I think are best and kind of best practices. But if you decide that, hey, I don't want to ever come to Murrieta, I just want to buy a house, we can definitely do that. I've had a lot of clients do that over the years. Just do everything virtually. So if you're comfortable with that, we can definitely do it. But I would recommend planning to make a couple trips out here. When you're finding a place to live in for the next multiple years, I think it's really, really helpful to be able to see a lot of that in person, to make sure you guys are happy with what you're getting. So cool. Anyways, I hope that helps. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can call, you can text, you can email me, and hopefully I will talk to you soon. Thanks.